Hello and welcome to this training bite on Belbin's team roles. Dr. Meredith Belbin worked at Henley Management College just outside London in the UK in the 1970s and 80s, and it was there that he did his main piece of work on different roles that people play in teams. I'm going to take you through the 9 team roles that come from Belbin's work, and at the end you'll have some references to follow up if you want to find out more. These 9 team roles don't mean you need 9 people in a team to be effective, as any one person can play 2 or 3 of the roles, and it's also more about your behaviour with others in the team in terms of group dynamics, rather than your ascribed formal or functional role. Let's take you through the 9 roles briefly. Each role has a name and a symbol. The plant role is symbolised with a light bulb because it's the plant role in a team that comes up with lots of bright ideas. Each role has contributions that they bring to the team, as well as some weaknesses. Here you can see the plant's contributions. Their weaknesses are fine if both the individual and the rest of the team are aware of them and can manage them and mitigate against them. You just have to watch them that they don't become too much of an obstacle for either the individual or the team. Whilst the plant is full of bright ideas, they can sometimes forget to pay attention to some of the details that might be important in following through their ideas. And they're not always the best at communicating their ideas, either to their colleagues in the team or outside. The resource investigator role is symbolised with a telephone because they are life's networkers. They love being in touch with their great array of contacts. They communicate well and they reach out outside the team, finding opportunities for the team to get involved in. They're so eager in making these contacts, they sometimes forget just how much time, energy, effort or budget it can take to follow through every opportunity they come back into the team with. Also, they're great in the first flush of ideas of a new project, but can lose interest over time. The coordinator role is symbolised by an orchestra conductor. They organise other people around a particular task or perhaps a project. They're great at seeing where different people in the team can bring their strengths to bear. They're so good at organising other people that when you're on the other end of it though, it can feel a bit like you're being manipulated. Also, the coordinator is so fantastic at delegating work, they can go right through to delegating their own work too. Not always very popular. The shaper role is symbolised with a whip. That's because they whip the team into shape. They drive things forward with incredible dynamic energy. They really are very focused on the task and the goal. Sometimes, though, the end justifies the means in the shaper's mind, so they can tend to offend others if they're not careful. And they're quite fiery characters, so sometimes you can provoke them without meaning to. The monitor-evaluator role is sometimes symbolised with an eye and other times with a set of scales. That's because they're very good at looking at what's happening, noticing all the options and then weighing them up. And they often make extremely good decisions because they weigh up all the options quite dispassionately. They're not particularly driven though, unlike the shaper. For them, what's really important is taking into account all of the information to hand and making a good, robust decision. and that's not a particularly fast or dynamic process. They can also be a bit too ready to say what's wrong with an idea or a proposal or a suggestion. So in that way they can come across as critical, which isn't always inspirational for their colleagues. The team worker role is symbolised by people being together. This is the role that really likes the social life of the team. They love to be in a happy team where everyone's getting on well together and there's harmony. They're very good at listening to others and bringing them into the discussions and conversations. However, the team worker really doesn't like to upset anyone. They want everyone to be happy all the time. So if there is a tough decision to be made that will have implications for people, the team worker can feel distinctly uncomfortable about this and can either put off the decision or can in some way fudge it. The implementer role is symbolised by cogs in a machine. This is the role that rolls up its sleeves and gets on with whatever needs to be done. No matter how routine, how boring, how dirty the job, if that's what's needed, the implementer will just get on and do it. You can rely on them doing what's needed. They're not terrifically flexible though. Once they know what's needed, then that's what they will do. And if there's some big change in the team, or even a small change like a new team member, then they can be quite slow to respond to that. The completer finisher role is symbolised with a spanner. That's because they're the person that comes along behind everyone else, tightens up the nuts on the wheel on the truck before it goes out to the customer. They're great at attention to detail, and they will take however long it needs in order to get the piece of work properly finished off to quite high standards often. They're a perfectionist, and they worry unduly sometimes about aspects of a piece of work that others would say is good enough. They also don't always believe that others can work to their exacting standards, so they can be quite reluctant to delegate even when they're snowed under with work. Now the specialist role was added by Dr. Belbin after he'd written about the other 8 roles. This is a role you may not need all the time in the team, but you might need to draft them in occasionally when you need some particular specialist knowledge or skills. They really are dedicated to their specialism. Often their whole life revolves around it. You can trust that this person will really know their stuff. However, they bring their contribution on quite a limited front. Their specialism is it, and they can bang their drum about it even when strategically the whole team need to be looking at something else. So that's the 9 team roles. An easy way of thinking about them is how they break down into 3 areas of focus. Some of the roles are concerned with ideas, others about people, and yet more around the task. Here's how it breaks down. And there you have it. If you can maintain a good balance between all these roles, then Belbin's research would say you have more chance of success in your team and you will have a more productive and effective team. If you don't have the whole balance though, you need to think about how different people might be able to stretch their skills to cover some of the roles that are currently a gap. If you want to find out more, Belbin's website is an excellent place to go. Also, to read around Belbin, the Wikipedia entry is a great read. I hope this little video has been useful to you, and I shall see you again soon.